Hello and welcome to week 7, and here we go. Let me tell you about what's been going on in my life recently. We took a trip down to Hampton Beach, having a great time, and without going too much into the details, my wife was goofing off. She fell down and broke her leg in 3 different places: her ankle and the top and bottom of her tibia, lower leg. I think I got the bone name right. We are awaiting consultation on surgery. She's hoping to be in the hospital tonight. So right now she's in my living room in a lot of pain. So nonetheless, she's on great meds. So don't worry too much about that. And I'm still doing my job. So a little bit about the delay that's been going on. Aside from the normal laziness that I have, life events have come along. So nonetheless, here we are in Chapter 9, talking about survey research. Great timing as we're about to get into some of the nitty-gritty about your studies, and I think almost all of you are going to be conducting surveys. Most of you are using existing surveys, which is great. That means that those surveys that you're using, just lists of questions, have been validated and tested for reliability, which is the really 2 big questions that we face when we talk about surveys. So, to start off in the discussion, I want you to do some research. This is regular web research finding a survey that was done for commercial purposes. This can be a survey on your satisfaction with McDonald's. It can be one of those take a survey card that you get at JCPenney or something like that. Or maybe it's a phone survey, or maybe you look it up and say, commercial surveys out there, and finding out, the different surveys that are out there asking people questions about their consumption of products, and discuss the relative validity and reliability of those particular surveys. Remember to look at validity and reliability, 2 separate components of evaluating how good a test is. In the Chapter 9 quiz, pretty straightforward, gushing back out to me what are the advantages and disadvantages of using surveys. And finally, for our assignment, taking a little break from your own study, I give you a website on social psychology research. And there are a number in there that entail taking surveys. These are real studies going on right now. And these are not just fake studies. I want you to go be a subject in one of those. So you go through that, find one that's interesting to you. You participate in that study for the whole thing. And then in your reflection paper to me, of course, you told me about the study. I want you to include, copy word for word, I think it's 2 questions from the survey. So as you're taking the survey, it might disappear after. So as you're taking the survey, you might, write down, as you're participating, write down a couple of the questions. And then I want you to determine what do you think they were after in terms of understanding the study as much as you do? What do you think they were after in terms of those questions? And are they valid? And do you consider them to be reliable? Now, validity and reliability, you need to look that up. Validity means, does the question really answer the construct that you're looking for? Or does it maybe indicate something else? Reliability is a combination. There's a little bit of validity in reliability. But reliability talks about, on different occasions, if nothing else has changed, would I answer the question the same way? Now, you can probably understand that many times we do surveys where we have a pre-survey and then a post-survey, and we expect people to change. In fact, our intervention in between, we use the difference between those 2 tests to determine the effectiveness of the intervention in between, or the effectiveness of time or study or whatever that's happened in that period of time. So again, reliability means test to test, if nothing has changed, should produce the same answer. You're measuring something that holds true over time. That's reliability. It also encompasses all the rules that we have about not leading people using the question, trying to lead them toward an answer. Now, probably, I'll say it this way. Of course, there are some ways in which questions can be answered that, or even the way the question can be written, or even the fonts and colors that are used can lead people to a particular response. There's some others that reflect social desirability. Okay, so let's say there was a survey and it says, "Have you ever abused your children?" Now, you may understand that this is, your identity is protected, that it's this information cannot be gone back to you. But let's say you do have a history of that. Hopefully you're not doing it anymore, but you have a history of that, and your answer would be yes, but you answer no because that is not how you want to be perceived, even if it's anonymous, the way it is. You don't want to be perceived that way. Another example of that socially desirable, just a way in which someone could ask questions that would lead people to answer a question in certain ways. Let's say we were just in the emergency room not too long ago, and the question came up. In fact, this is funny because this really happened. 2 different hospitals first got evaluated in Exeter Hospital, broken leg, drove all the way home to Skowhegan, got there at 10 o'clock at night. We were in the Skowhegan Hospital till 3 in the morning. When we were in Exeter, one of the questions that came along was, "Do you take any recreational drugs?" When we are asked the same question in Skowhegan, "Do you take any illegal drugs?" They're after the same information, but wow, except for marijuana probably, because that's legal now. But very different phrasing of the questions that would draw, each of them would draw critique for being unreliable. Much better to list them. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do this? At least, you're making the distinction. There's probably no easy way to ask that question without somebody saying no, because they don't want to be perceived as a drug user, unless they don't care about that perception. So anyway, surveys, I'm talking about some of the complexity of surveys that probably should be reflected in your quiz question about the pros and cons. Writing research questions is a science and an art all in its own. I actually, in my undergraduate school, took an entire course on survey writing, or on surveys, survey research. And we spent half that class talking about how do you structure questions so that they're valid and reliable. Just a lot of knowledge base there. We got into arguments about Likert scales, whether they should be 3, 5, 7, or whether maybe they should just be 4 and there's no midpoint, which is like a null data. They're not, a lot of people taking the one in the middle, you lose all that data. You don't get a whole lot of information out of the 3s on a 5-point scale. So lots of discussion just about that. So surveys, that you'll find are, the go-to for many researchers. They're going to be the go-to for each one of you, but yet there's lots of traps involved in survey research. You'll be learning about that this week. So that is what we're doing this week. I will be making heroic attempts on grading, and as best that I can. Be patient. I'm setting the pace here, so don't worry about any of the pacing on this. We'll get through this, and we'll get this grading done, and we'll make it through the semester. So have a great week getting this work done and getting the feedback from me on the assignment that you have submitted. So take care, and I will see you next time.